Welcome to Rhodes Smart Camp. And Rudy, how do you say your last name?
Tyburczy.
Tyburczy. Okay, because it's spelled really tricky.
It's all over the place.
Rudy Tyburczy, ladies and gentlemen.
Tyburczy?
Tyburczy.
I do try very hard.
Did I throw an R in there?
You could say Tyburczy, yeah.
Rudy, you're from Eugene, Oregon.
Yeah, I am.
But we met in Seoul, Korea.
Totally.
And I will love you forever because you and Jeff Sinclair started this comedy scene in Seoul, Korea.
Yeah.
And it was expats, such a great scene. And you guys flew me over twice to perform in Seoul, Korea. And, the very first time I ever got a passport, I'm known as a traveler.
Right.
1988. Boy, I was, what was I, 20? 21? The first reason I got a passport was to go to Korea.
Really?
I had met, when I was 19, I met a Korean American girl from Los Angeles.
Oh.
And she had gone, it was before the 88 Olympics. She was like a translator for the New York Times.
Cool.
And so it was before the 88 Olympics. I had gone to Seoul, Korea.
Yeah.
And it was my first time out of the United States. So the reason I got a passport was to go to Korea. And I never
got to hang out with this woman?
Just to go see this woman who I was crazy about.
Love it.
And the next time I never got to go back to Korea until you guys invited me.
Oh, fun.
So it was like super special for me.
Yeah, that's so cool.
So let's talk about your experiences in Korea and that comedy scene. I'm still friends with everyone.
A lot of us,
those the guys that were the local comedians then.
Totally, yeah. You're in the crew, man. Everybody in the crew still talks about Tom. We love Tom Rhodes. We're stoked that Tom is like part of our circle of friends. Like it's such a gift. It's such a cool thing.
Well, I remember Ashna and I were still married. I remember the first time I came over was winter, and we were still drinking. I was still drinking, and one of the reasons why Ashna and I got along so well was she could hold her liquor.
Yeah.
When we first started. So I remember like the drinking scene in Korea and Japan is just
wild.
It's remarkable how hard people punish themselves with booze there.
It is heavy and it is regular and it is weekday nonstop for a lot of folks. And I feel like that's what a lot of us just kind of fell into in Korea. It's like we're putting on shows, we're living overseas, we're meeting friends from all over the world, we're in a new country, we're bringing over comedians, we're doing all this stuff. And it's like my job started at 4 p.m. my first year. I worked from like 4 to 10 p.m. So it's like, what are you going to do after work except go out and drink? Like, that's just the norm. And in that culture, the drinking is pervasive. I've never been a part of a place.
Yeah, like people feel pressure. Like if their boss wants to go out and drink.
Totally.
That they have to go out with the boss and they got to keep up with drinking with the boss, right?
It feels like Rush Week all the time in Korea. It's ridiculous how much people have to drink.
Confirmed in this
and it
fraternity.
Doesn't happen until you're like 60 years old because it's such an age-based society, hierarchical society. And there's so many names and things you have to do. You have to call people certain things. You have to drink in a certain way, depending on how old other people at the table are. You have to like shield your face from them while you drink and stuff like that. You have to let other people do stuff first. And I'm all about respecting your elders and that kind of stuff. But it kind of takes it to an extreme case in Korea as far as I'm concerned. I always would tell my students, I'm like, I respect you because you're a human being, not because you're older or younger than me.
And not because of how much alcohol you can
and drink. Not because of how much booze you can drink. And one of the things they would say is, I want to see you die out drinking. That was the mindset of like, how much can you drink? People wouldn't say, how much can you drink? They would ask, how many bottles of soju can you drink? So how many bottles of soju? One bottle gets a party going. And any more than that is like a danger zone. But they were $2. Pack of cigarettes cost $2.50. A bottle of soju was $1.50. All this stuff. We're in a foreign country for the first time. For me, it was like college with more money and no responsibility because I was there. I was doing it. I had money. I lived on my own.
And like beautiful women everywhere.
Beautiful women. Wonderful.
Like, because so you went there to teach English was what brought you over there originally. And so like a lot of people that I met there, some pretty hideous looking American men with the most smoking hot young Korean girlfriends.
So
if you're listening to this and you have nothing going on in your life and you have a decent grasp of the English language, go take a job teaching English in Korea because...
Consider Asia, for sure. Our friend Turner Sparks.
You might be more handsome than where you are located.
I would say it's the exchange rate. The exchange rate is good for us over there.
It's actually why I like coming to Oregon. I feel very handsome here.
Yeah.
A lot of the men in Oregon are just not good looking.
We are not.
Beards, they don't take care of themselves, they dress like shit.
Dude,
like
a
hoodie is considered formal wear here.
Your average is good here. Yeah, you're batting well here. No, Oregon is weird. Someone had a joke that just cracked me up. Someone was like making fun of how someone else looked, and they're like, "He's ugly for Eugene."
Wow.
And I was like, "Oh, that hurts. That's harsh." It's Oregon. It's the Northwest. It's like people care less about shaving. People care less about grooming. People care less about smells here and that kind of stuff. So it's interesting. I'm from Eugene. But I didn't grow up in that like counterculture part of the vibe here. I just went to Oregon Country Fair for the first time a couple years ago, really, and I'm bringing comedy there. Oh my gosh, I love Oregon Country Fair. Have you ever heard of it?
No, what is that? Tell me all about it.
Dude, Oregon Country Fair, so the short version is it's Burning Man in the woods without the tech. So it's just 3 days of fun, of joy, of hippies in the woods, neurodivergent fairies, just barely taking showers.
What does that mean?
It's just people who are selling...
What's neurodivergent?
Neurodivergent is like someone who might be on a scale who's not neurotypical. So like it could be...
On the spectrum?
On the spectrum, yeah. Neurodivergent is another term, and I'm probably butchering this.
With all your fancy terminology.
I know, us 40-year-olds. I have to learn this stuff. I'm 40 and I have to learn this stuff. I'm not good at it. I look like I should know a lot more about youth than I do. And I just don't feel... I had an analog upbringing like everybody else around here. So, or not everybody else, but I had an analog upbringing and a digital adulthood. So that's so hard, I feel like, for a generation, our types of generations, because now we're left trying to figure it out. We're left trying to navigate these online social circles and stuff like that. But going back to, where were we?
So this is like hippies running around naked in the woods?
Totally.
On mushrooms and stuff like that?
Yes, exactly. And it's like during the day, it's family friendly kind of a thing.
Because I'll tell you, I went to Burning Man last year, and the thing I didn't like about, you heard me talking about it on stage, it's the desert. It's 105 degrees. And so the normal elements, it's kind of an endurance race to get through the day.
Right.
Because it's brutally hot. The nighttime is fantastic with the stars and art cars, but the Oregon climate I would appreciate more for a hippie festival.
I think you might really appreciate this. It's in the woods. The vibe that I would most compare it to is Amsterdam, because it's all day, all night, and it's just like you can wander and get lost and find whatever you're looking for, find the most delicious snacks. You might wander upon a bunch of like trumpet playing troubadours in a swamp that you just like hear this glorious music from. And like literally last year, me and my friend were talking about Reggie Watts. 5 minutes later, we bumped into him.
Oh, nice.
And Reggie's actually coming back this year as a proper performer, as opposed to someone who was just going there for his own fun.
Where is this festival?
It's 25 miles away in Veneta, Oregon. And it's the Oregon Country Fair. It's got these hippie Woodstock vibes. It's very much in that, like, has sprouted from that thought process. And so I feel very lucky to be part of it. It's July 12th, 13th, and 14th. The second full weekend in July, I think, is how it works.
Okay, I'll be in New York City this year, but maybe 2025.
Keep it in mind for the future, because it's a lot of fun, and I'm getting to put together the comedy stage. I did that last year. We did...
Oh, so great. There's a comedy stage.
Yeah, and there had been little attempts at comedy previously, but I don't think it really kind of grasp the like ideology of the fair and the like. It's kind of weird to do comedy outside. You know what I mean? And like,
well, I've done some festival. God, what was it? Oh my God, it was outside. It was the something camp. It was an outdoor drugs music festival I did about 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And it was great because everyone was on ecstasy.
Yeah.
I forget what was it called? But somebody threw a baby, a doll,
Okay.
on the stage. But it was like it was like a doll.
Yeah.
And so I just said, hey, look, everybody, it's Ecstasy Baby. And then I took it and I was making the little doll dance.
And they ate it up.
These people were like howling and tears coming out of their eyes. They were crying. And I didn't even have to do any jokes. Just, hey, look, Ecstasy Baby. And just like.
I love that. And that's almost like what I tried to build into the show, because we're giving people fair-related challenges during their sets. Because it's so unpredictable, because there's madness, there's going to be a festival walking by, a parade next to your set. There's a man in assless chaps threw a dollar bill on a fishing line on the stage while I was doing it. He didn't even know that was the show. It was this like random ass show, and like just so much random stuff. I had someone eat a burrito while performing.
And the people are just howling.
People
right?
are loving it.
Yeah.
There was a happy hecklers challenge. So you could heckle, but you'd have to heckle positive affirmations. At any
I like
point.
that.
Yeah.
That's great.
It's so fun.
A kind heckle.
Exactly.
I like that.
And so like having that kind of stuff in the middle of a set adds such a unique spirit of presence to the set. It's like, we're here special, and this is a cool thing that we get to do. And so like, if you try to just do a typical stand-up show where everyone's just trying their best and doing their jokes, it might not land with everybody. Eugene is a hard market. Eugene is kind of tough because I feel like people this has been my experience, some people might have other experiences. In a lot of the more progressive or alternative scenes, I feel like people want to agree with their comedians. People want to be on the same page as the perspective of their comedians. And I want to laugh at people who I don't agree with. You know, I think that that's important. I want to be able to laugh at people whose perspectives I do not share. And so taking away some of that, like, I don't know, that a little more formal artifice and just making, you're part of the weekend. We're here. The unpredictable stuff happens. That's the fun of Oregon Country Fair, is you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know when you're going to bump into Reggie Watts in front of the nude sauna and smoke with him all weekend. You know what I mean? You don't know when these things are going to happen. So like, let's just have fun and let's enjoy ourselves. Oh, what was it? Reggie was going to do a set at the Comedy Stage last year. Ron Lynch was on it as well. Ron Lynch happened to be around. Seth Milstein and Ron Lynch were doing shows, and they came during fair, and in the most fair event of all time, Ron killed. He did awesome. He did his awesome, fun. He's perfect for the fair crowd because he's a little avant-garde, Yeah. And then when he heard Reggie was around, he was so stoked. And when Reggie heard Ron was around, he was so stoked. But Reggie showed up as soon as the show ended because he got lost, because that is fair. You go to fair and you get lost. So
it's pretty big.
It's big, yeah. There's
music all over the place.
There's music constantly. Art installations. There's so many different, there's, stuff for the kids. There's stuff for the family, the best food, vegan food, or non-vegan stuff. But it's just like all the hippie stereotypes times 100 cock rings. Like, that's what it is. That's what Oregon Country Fair is. And it's beautiful. And I didn't know what it was really until this last year that I was invited to be a part of it. And they invited us back. And so we're super stoked to be a part of it. And I want to build it over the years. I want to help build the comedy presence there. And I know other people do too. So it's like, you're a perfect person to talk with about it, because it's like, oh, Tom would love fair. Tom would have a blast.
That sounds like something I would love.
Right.
I love Oregon, and I love the people here. And we'll talk more about that in a minute. But Burning Man, I would never go back to.
Okay.
Like some people go there and they make it their life.
Yeah.
And I had met a bunch of people who did it for the first time, and they were like, this will now become my identity.
This is who I am.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they'll spend the rest of the year making money, getting their costumes together. I got lucky. I got a really great Burning Man name. Everyone gets a name.
Ooh, what was it?
Did I tell you my Burning Man name?
I didn't hear it.
Radiant.
Ooh, Radiant.
There was some topless Canadian girls across the dirt road from my tent.
Yeah.
And hanging out with these women after like the third day. She goes, "You have a radiant smile."
Oh.
And the very first time I saw you across the road, I thought, there's something radiant about that man. And she said, "I think that should be your Burning Man name."
Yeah.
Radiant.
Radiant Tom.
I got lucky because I met some people with some really stupid Burning Man names, like Pogo Stick, and
I'd hate to be the guy called Peg Leg or whatever, but I guess Peg Leg's
Let me tell you
fine.
about the most beautiful thing that happened. So
Yeah.
I was like going, man, and after like day 5, this was before the storm hit.
Oh, yeah.
Because so that was like the worst Burning Man ever.
Right.
The one I went to, because it got flooded and it made the world news, and
People were stuck there for days.
Yeah, and I enjoyed it because I had brought books.
Yeah.
So I just stayed in my tent reading.
Perfect.
Comedians, we're used to isolation and, spending long days by yourself, And it was a lot of the spoiled rich people who panicked and tried to leave. And it was kind of funny to see all these Teslas stuck in the mud.
Yeah.
And like it made the world news, and it was almost like it was like during the pandemic. Like people wouldn't believe what the authorities were telling them.
Right.
They told everyone to shelter in place. The front gate is locked. You're like 8 miles from the nearest road.
Wow.
So, you got to, and it's all washed out.
It's
and
a trek.
It's all flooded mud.
Yeah.
And this was like this satanic mud. It would cake up on your shoes where you'd be like 40 pounds. And like even big monster trucks jacked up with the big fat tires
Getting stuck.
were getting stuck. And there was this big pickup truck, and the guy stopped because I was like on the outer ring road, and the guy, I went over to him and I showed him on my phone. I go, "Hey man, I don't know if you saw this photo that's on the world news." And it just showed like 200 vehicles like all stuck in the mud at the gate. I go, "So even if you can get through this mud, you're not getting past this log jam at the front."
Right.
And the guy looks at it and he just nods and he goes, "I think I'm going to go for it." And then he went for it.
Yeah.
And, what a fucking moron.
God rest his soul.
But the thing I wanted to say was, before the storm, the most beautiful thing, these topless Canadian girls, I was saying, yeah, God, it'd be nice to take a shower. And they go, "Well, there's a tent here called Wash Your Carcass." And we went, and there was no walls, this big tent.
Yeah.
And everyone's naked. So we ride our bikes over, brutally hot, like 105 degrees. And, I'm not comfortable being naked around strangers and people I don't know.
Yeah.
But I've been doing hot yoga like a mofo. I have a really beautiful body and stomach muscles. So
Nailing
if
it.
ever I'm just going to strip down and put my clothes on the bike and go stand in line for a half hour with a bunch of naked people, this is now the time.
This is the time,
'cause
Tom.
I look beautiful.
Yeah.
A couple years ago with a pot belly, I probably would have said no.
Yeah.
So there was like those kind of plastic busboy tubs.
Yeah.
The busboys in restaurants when they clean up the...
Right.
So there was like 4 of those. And so you're in line, and then they explain it to you. There's nothing sexual about this. There's no photos allowed, and there's no touching of genitals or butt regions.
Right.
And they had those like spray, water spray,
Like a mister for cats
type. Yeah, exactly. So you stand, and then you wash people first, and then you get washed.
So that's how you wash, is with the mister.
You step in it, and there's no soap. So you step in the first one, you lift your arms, and like 4 people around you spray you with the mister.
Yeah.
And then you step in the second one, and then the 4 people around you like kind of squeegee with their hands the water off you.
Okay.
Then you get into the third one, and then it's Mr. Spray again.
All right.
And then the fourth one is the squeegee again. So it was so refreshing.
You're washing dishes.
Because it was so hot.
Yeah.
And here's the most beautiful thing. there was something really, it was one of the most beautiful experiences of my life.
For sure.
Because to touch an older woman's body
Mm-hmm.
and then like a black woman's body.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was this like redheaded woman from Australia who had like really white skin and freckles and the cutest little orange bush of pubic hair.
Yeah.
And then like an Indian man. And, honestly, there was a couple big hairy motherfuckers that I didn't touch, I was like, sorry, sorry, dude, you're on your own. But I think it was one of the most purest gifts of love that I ever gave to humanity and humanity ever gave to me.
Totally.
Because it was like everyone helping each other on this really kind of primate level.
Very Jesus-like, washing.
Exactly. Jesus washed people's feet and stuff.
Exactly.
I mean, only like monkeys picking like ticks and bugs off of each other.
But you know what that does? That releases dopamine. When you are in those time periods, when you're like touching someone's hair, that's one of the most like dopamine crazy things.
So at my shows, I'm going to set up 4 busboy tubs on the way out.
Heck yeah. That's it. Yeah. Feel free to pick at each other's hair. Give them a squeegee. I got the misters for you. The front area is the splash zone.
I would never go back. I would never do it again. But like that, I think that was for me, the best experience of it.
Well, oh my gosh, Tom, the nude sauna at Fair is called the Ritz, and it is the stuff of legend. It is amazing. It is so glorious. It's just like it's a big open space. You look up and you're just covered by the trees. There's a beautiful canopy of trees. You're in a building, like in some kind of structure, but you see outside. It's just men and women all over, and you just go in and shower. And what else they have is live entertainment in there. So they will have bands. They will have, sauna. Yes, in the nude sauna, and the performers are nude. I saw a guy playing bagpipes in the nude, and there's just like people getting down on the dance floor in the sauna, and it was just glorious. If you haven't danced with 150 naked strangers to a Irish man on the bagpipes in a nude sauna, I mean, like, that is an experience and a half. That is the stuff that you go to these things for, just because it's so special and it's so unique. And it's like, we're all here. We're all just weird, hairy, sweaty humans, and we're having the time of our lives right now. And at the end of the night, when the day passes are gone, there's this whole other world that opens up at night with like amazing shows. I was on the spirit of Fair came through in this like band that was a Fleetwood Mac tribute band. And I love Fleetwood Mac, big Fleetwood Mac fan.
What's your favorite Fleetwood Mac song?
I'm a big Secondhand News fan. And I mean, there's every song you hear from Fleetwood Mac, I feel like it just touches you so hard. Mm-hmm. But Secondhand News is high on my list of karaoke's, and it's just such a fun song, and I love it. Do you have a favorite one?
I think Rhiannon.
Rhiannon. I met one or two of.
I've met a few women that had that name too.
Yeah.
And what's the? There's one of their more. The later songs, I mean, it's their, I used to be kind of prejudiced against them when I was a hard rocker, when I was younger.
Yeah, I get
but
it.
Like, you can't deny they're great. I always thought Tusk was one of the stupidest songs ever made.
Yeah, it very well could be.
At that period, I want to be with you everywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
You hear a song and it just releases joy inside you.
That I think is... that's not Christy McVie solo, is that? That's like a proper Fleetwood
I think that's a Fleetwood song.
I want to be with you everywhere.
Right.
Beautiful song.
So gorgeous, yeah.
I'd say that's my favorite.
Nice, yeah. And I say I'm a big fan. I've listened to the stuff a ton of times, but I'm not someone who pays a ton of attention.
I used to hate Rush. Now I like Rush.
Yeah, like I love growing up and discovering stuff that you used to hate.
You got to change your opinion, I mean, I used to dislike Steely Dan, and now like... I've heard wow, that's another great song that they had. I mean, it's
right.
The opinions you had when you were younger. Like I used to be against pop music, but now I love pop music.
What?
There's
Yeah.
a reason why things are popular. They're happy. They're danceable.
You can listen to it and not scratch your ears out. Like,
Yeah.
not all the time, but yeah, it's just like, get over yourself. Like I would rather have fun than be snarky. That's essentially kind of what it boils down to. It's
Yeah.
like, I'm not going to let...
Being a snob doesn't lead to happiness.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm all about that. That's where I'm trying to ordain myself in that direction, right? Is towards happiness, towards joy, towards sharing, caring, generosity, that kind of stuff is what I want. Do I always hit the mark? No, of course not. But it's like when you put that as a North Star, when you put that kind of stuff out there, then you're going to be moving towards it on a regular basis, you know? And so your actions, that's why I think we get more aligned as we grow, right? Because we have an idea of what we want in life. We have an idea of who we are and what is right for us. And so then I just think naturally we take the steps in that direction. And so you give a little less of a shit about whether you like a pop song or not. It's like, oh shit, Shazam told me I liked Katy Perry or whatever. I think that's an old...
She has some great song. Oh my God. And it was in that Korea period when it went over. It was because baby, you're a firework. I love that song.
And that was on the Interview movie, you know, the Seth Rogen movie with the North Korean dictator, that kind of stuff. And there was a big Katy Perry part of that too.
God, that thing. I remember, and I had never seen this before, but you guys used to show this before the shows in Korea, and it just because there'd be videos on the screen behind the stage as the backdrop.
Yeah.
And what was the so call me baby?
Yeah.
It was this great video that song. What was the thing? So was it chat roulette or something?
So yes, there was a chat roulette guy.
If you've never seen this video,
oh man,
it's like such a funny video. This guy, and he's dressed up like in
a bikini or something.
Yeah, he's like,
and so all these dudes on chat roulette with like their hands in their pants.
That's it. Like, guys are ready to like beat off or something.
Yeah, and then he turns around. He's this little bearded man and doing Katy Perry.
He had his back turned, so he had long hair.
Exactly.
So you think, and the bikini, you think it's a woman. And and that song is playing, and he would turn around singing
and do a whole song and dance to it. And then the videos are cut of the different responses from the different dozens of people who he did that to.
So funny. And some people would sing along.
Exactly.
And get the joy and the joke of it. And then other dudes who like had a towel over their boner like appalled.
And that's all Jeff. I will give so much
How
credit.
could you search that video? What would you type in?
I would say chat roulette Katy Perry.
What was that, Katy Perry? Because that was
whatever. Miley Cyrus. They did Wrecking Ball. There was a Wrecking Ball one.
No. But it was so call me maybe.
That's song? Carly Rae Jepsen.
Okay, so chat roulette.
Carly Rae Jepsen or Call Me Baby. Chat roulette. Yeah, something like that.
You gotta see that video. It's
so
such a funny, hilarious video.
And Jeff was so smart because he would make these playlists of 20, 30, 50 videos that he would put on.
Hello, Jeff Sinclair. We love you.
We love you so much, Jeff. I wish you were here right now. He's always talking about Tom. He's always bringing up friends from the Korea days.
Whenever I'm going to be in Minneapolis next month, hopefully he's always threatening to drive down. Because how far is Winnipeg from?
I think it's like a 6-hour drive.
Okay.
We met in North Dakota once when I visited Winnipeg from Minnesota.
I like Winnipeg because it sounds like a contest for pirates.
You said that. That's a good joke. And I love when a joke about a place that people don't really know still gets a laugh. And I think you're really good at that. You have to be good at that because you do have so much international material. And you do shows in Springfield.
Did you like my Korea joke I did for you last night?
Yeah.
I love the Korean flag because it looks like the Pepsi logo vibrating.
I love that joke. It got some chuckles. I think that's I don't know if I'd ever heard that, but it made me laugh for sure.
I only wrote that in the last couple of years.
Oh, fun. Yeah, that's so great.
Or I found it in a notebook. I might have written it when I was there.
Yeah, that's so fun.
But so, you're from Oregon, and since the last time I saw you, because I haven't seen you since Korea.
Right.
In Seoul.
Crazy.
I am so pro Oregon.
Love it.
I have fallen in love so deeply with Oregon because I was dating this woman who lived in Portland, and Portland is amazing. I mean, it's
a blast.
It's got some issues. There's a lot of drug addicts living on the street.
Yeah.
And, I remember a pretty frightening Proud Boys element on the highway overpasses when Trump told them to stand back and fucking
stand guard,
whatever the fuck he said,
man.
and all these like Proud Boys were all over the overpasses.
They were ready for something.
Portland, and I was there during that period when there were clashes downtown.
Damn. Oh yeah,
every night.
All the stuff. Oh,
yeah,
you were
when
there.
all that shit was going on. I was in Portland.
Yeah.
But during the pandemic, I had only like checked out the western, the cities along the coast from doing shows. I had never explored the interior of Oregon.
Right.
So with this woman I was dating who lived in Portland, during 2020, when everything was locked down, we just took these epic trips.
Yeah.
All over Oregon. And I have to say, it's one of my favorite places in the world now.
I love that.
There's so much, I always thought it was plush and green, but the eastern half of the state is like arid rock mountains, like Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
Like that top northeastern corner is amazing.
Yeah. You do some bend time?
Loads of bend. John Day fossil beds.
Yeah.
It's funny, so many things are named after John Day. And his story is pretty funny.
What's his story?
I guess Astoria, where Astoria is now, was where their fort was. But like the Native Americans had like robbed him and took all of his clothes, and he had to walk naked like a few hundred miles back to Astoria.
Jeez, John.
Yeah. So
that's a tough day.
I wasn't that smart, and they named everything.
Yeah, that sounds like Oregon.
But Crater Lake is amazing.
Yeah,
I love Ashland. Grants Pass has got like the greatest antique stores.
You were there this week.
I got lots of cool. I got some brass knuckles.
Brass knucks, baby,
for $20. Cannon Beach is amazing. Astoria is incredible.
A lot of cool coastal towns in Oregon too. And all those places you named, I've probably visited half of them. That's how it is when you're from a place, right? Yeah. And I was talking with somebody the other day who's not from the States. I don't know if I've been to Cannon Beach, and I should. I have a friend who has like a bar there and like lives there. So there's so many things that I need to get to Crater. Maybe I went to Crater Lake when I was 7.
Really?
You know what I mean? But it's like, I gotta get to Crater Lake.
It's cool in the winter, and you have to make a reservation. They only let a limited amount of people go, but you could like hike there through the snow.
Yeah,
if you're a skilled hiker and stuff. But to go there in nice sunny weather,
right,
when it's summer or whatever, it's one of the most beautiful sights in America.
I gotta see more of Oregon, and it's always good to have. That's perfect. If you were dating someone in Oregon, it's perfect for you and them. A great excuse to get out and see just some of the gorgeous stuff around.
And I think that was, like for happiness and mental health, when everything was locked down during the pandemic, to go out into nature was the best thing you could do for your brain.
It was huge.
So it was really lovely. And then from that experience of dating this woman and falling completely in love with Oregon, I think because it's the opposite of Florida. Because Florida's like sweltering hot, and here it's it rains a lot, and it's a little chilly. But I said this on stage last night. But because of my experience with Portland, this woman, and falling in love with Oregon, my secret style now is I dress like a dude from Oregon.
Heck yeah, baby.
I'm obsessed with the Pendleton brand.
Yeah, quality.
Vintage Carhartt stuff.
Yeah.
And
that'll keep you sturdy and safe and sound and warm.
So like that's my style now, is I dress like a dude from Oregon.
You better move here. I guess it's time for Tom.
I need some money.
Uncle Tom. Yeah, Oregon's not a place for that.
No, but I mean to like buy
Oh,
If
yeah.
I had some dough, I think I'd buy a place here.
Dude, that you are not the first comedian to say that or consider that. You know, Kanane moved up to Portland, Oregon. When Eddie Pepitone has been here, he's always had very glowing things to say about Oregon. Lots of people, when they come here, are like surprised by kind of how nice it is to be around. I like to say Eugene.
I like the people.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, the people are not very attractive here. So I feel like,
you're
I feel like
good.
a movie star.
Yeah, you're killing it up here. Whatever. Quit calling us Oregonians ugly, Tom. Just because you're handsome and you got these stunning eyes, it's just like you put us Oregonians to shame.
I'm teasing, man.
Oregon has sneaky charm. That's what I say. Eugene especially has sneaky charm because it doesn't hit you right away. It takes a little while. And for me, being an Oregonian, being from Eugene, it's like I'm from here and I moved back to be with nearer my parents and that kind of stuff. It's like I'm not having kids or I don't see that in my future. So it's like, why not be around family a little more?
Right.
And yeah, Eugene is limiting in some ways, but it's also friggin' awesome. I get to hang out with my cats and my mom and friends, and I still get to do comedy.
The intelligence of, any university town, you're going to have smart people.
Right.
So you got the University of Oregon here. And I remember the last time I was here, 7-8 years ago, it's that Ken Kesey Square.
Yeah, you're not
downtown,
far.
which... Ken Kesey wrote Electric Kool-Aid Acid Test, but better. And I remember reading that when I moved to San Francisco. It was like required reading.
Right.
But beyond that, Sometimes a Great Notion, I think, is the ultimate Oregon book. And it's his best book.
Okay.
And then the film, Sometimes a Great Notion, starring Paul Newman, still holds up.
Yeah.
Phenomenal movie.
I believe it.
And that's what I think is Ken Kesey's greatest work. So it's cool that there's the little Ken Kesey Square.
Heck yeah.
So last time I was here 7-8 years ago, it was a sunny day, and walking up on Ken Kesey Square, there were two women reading books in the sunshine, and there was a man with a guitar playing and singing Bob Dylan's "Blowing in the Wind."
Right.
And it was so beautiful because no one had their phones out until I pulled out my phone to take a picture of it.
I love books and I love reading, but I haven't even read One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. I'm like I said, I haven't gone to the places. I haven't read the things.
Have you ever been to Salem to that insane asylum is now a museum.
Oh, wow.
And you can go there. And
Oh,
that's
wow.
where they filmed One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Really?
And I went there during the pandemic.
Cool.
And it's really chilling when you're there and you're reading all this stuff because Oregon had some really brutal shit.
Yeah.
There was some really dark shit that happened there. Like,
I believe
the electric shock treatments, giving people lobotomies.
Yeah.
And then anywhere in Oregon, some town, like if a woman had sex with a couple of guys, her family could send her to the nut house.
Jeez.
And then she'd be shocked treatment, whatever to, get the horror out of her, whatever the people thought at that time.
Right.
But you're reading the plaques there and you're like, oh my God, this is horrendous.
Oregon has a fairly sordid history. It was
only for whites only.
It was whites only for a while. Yeah, that was how it was founded. And it was I forget exactly what the law was, but it was tricky and shady and underhanded. It was black people can live here for 6 months as a free person or something along
in Portland,
those lines.
They couldn't be there after dark.
It was awful.
They could come in and work during the day. Awful. I found, because I love bookstores, and I found maybe an elementary school or maybe a high school book. I still have it. I bought it. It's a high school textbook from Oregon. And it's got this racial shit in it.
Yeah.
And explaining how white people are the dominant race.
Wow.
And they're showing, and they're, illustrations in it of Asians, you know, living in huts, and
Jeez Louise.
You know, people in Africa, like, you know, hunting with spears, and then
this is like the 50s or whatever,
from the like 50s or something, or maybe the 40s, and it's like, oh, the whites invented the trains and you know, electricity and shit like that, and it's like you look and you just want to vomit. It's so wrong and horrendous.
Yeah, there's a lot of that shit that's gone on in Oregon. You love books. Have you been to Smith Family Bookstore?
No, where's that?
It's nearby. Yeah, it's down the road. It's a place. If you have time today or tomorrow, check it out because it's fun. If I don't know what the hours are, but it was an institute. They've had
a used bookstore or regular?
Used bookstore, and it's pretty vast. I think it's just down the block or two from here.
Take a walk after.
Yeah. It's awesome.
When we get a slice of pizza from Slice.
Oh, nice. Slice is good. Yes, that's right. That's on Kesey Square. And so there's a lot of fun stuff in Eugene, a lot of cool stuff in Oregon, and there's a lot of trash as well. It's like it.
What do you mean?
Like you said, it has a bad history. I mentioned
you mean Oregon in general?
In general, yeah. It has a sordid history. And I've just found that it has been kind of hard to find my place coming back. You know what I mean? Like, that's a lot of the stuff that I deal with or I try to talk about or write about in my material because everyone can identify with not feeling totally at home somewhere, right? Like, it's when we focus on the human elements in our comedy, I think that's when we're on to something, when we're like talking about things that we care about. That's what I want to do. I don't want to be on a soapbox, but I want people to know that what I'm joking about, or at least feel that what I'm joking and talking about is real to me somehow. And moving will bring up a lot of that stuff. Right? Whenever you move, when there's a big transition in your life.
And I'm sure you felt this too. Like after I lived in Europe for 5 years, when I came back to the States, I felt like a foreigner in my own country.
Totally.
Because you're so used to some other culture.
Yeah. I mean, even as simple things like ordering at McDonald's, you know, I'll have a number 2 set. And even just the word set they're like, what are you talking about? Because it's just not the language that was used here. And so totally feel you on that. Like, feeling like a foreigner in your home is challenging. It's a hard thing. It's hard to come back to that, you know?
Well, what are the best things about Oregon that have influenced who you are as a human being? Because, I think Eugene is a pretty cool place.
I agree. And I think that I try to embody a lot of the spirit of what Eugene and Oregon Country Fair, kind of what that has, which is open-mindedness, which is a caring and loving and generous heart. Like, I feel like Oregon has so many wonderful ideals, like everywhere, right? There's a lot of great ideals in place, and a lot of people who are working to support those ideals are doing real work. And so I'm trying to do those things. I'm trying to encompass that. I try to have a servant-based mindset, even in comedy. I try to be like, I'm here for 5 minutes, 10, 20, 45 minutes for these people, and I want to give them a fun time. I want to give them a unique experience. And I think that part of that comes from my own personal upbringing. You know, my mother, an immigrant mother who...
From where?
From Norway.
Oh,
she was born in Norway, so she's still. I'm Norwegian, half Norwegian. I speak Norwegian. I studied.
Do you really?
Yeah, I lived there.
You've been to Norway's incredible.
It's like I can't wait to go back. Yeah, I lived there as a 20-year-old. It was my first time ever on a plane. First time ever out of the country. Hop on a plane, live in Bergen, Norway for a year, and I was still just a
great
kid.
Little comedy club there.
There's a comedy club in
Bergen.
Bergen.
That's another university town. You would feel right at home.
I love to go back. I tried to get back to Oslo to do a master's because it's free.
The club in Oslo is incredible too.
Oh man,
Latter, which is Norwegian
for laughter. That's so cool, dude. There is a universe that exists where I get on TV in Norway before in the States, and that is a possibility because I love Norway. I have a couple Norwegian show pitch ideas. You know what I mean? Like I've tried to write my sets in English and Norwegian. I had a Norwegian YouTube channel. I was a Norwegian tutor. I studied Norwegian for years and stuff like this. So it's like, I love Norwegian. I
did not know this about you.
Yeah.
So you're absolutely fluent in Norwegian?
I have been fluent at times, but I can have a conversation. I can chat. I can read most of a newspaper. I'll have to look stuff up, but I can have a conversation. And, I chatted with somebody at my job in Norwegian. They were Swedish. They spoke Swedish. I spoke Norwegian, and we had a little conversation. And it's like so great when I get to like bring that out, because it's not a thing that anyone ever asks about. It's like, quick, who speaks Norwegian here? It's like nobody needs that. And everybody in Norway, even in Norway, similar to Korea, like when I told people I speak Norwegian, they'd be like, why? Like, it doesn't matter. Everyone speaks English here. And so it's a big part of me and who I am.
It's the wealthiest country in Scandinavia.
Right.
And then the thing that like I learned when I was there and from playing in Scandinavia, because you always like Sweden used to be the dominant culture of Scandinavia. And I guess there's been racism and people looking down on others. And in the last 50, 75 years, things have flipped where Norway is now the dominant culture of Scandinavia because of all of this oil wealth.
All the money.
And so there's this, what's it called? The Sovereign Fund, where every Norwegian citizen has access to this. It's like, unlike, capitalism where, whatever oil companies just, it's all corporate greed and profits for themselves, where this Sovereign Fund in Norway, where every citizen has access to this backup fund of the oil wealth money. Yeah. And so it's like the wealthiest country in Scandinavia, and they're prejudiced against the Swedish people. Because, and I heard people in Norway say this, that they say that the Swedish people are the Mexicans of Europe.
Oh, really?
Or of Scandinavia.
Yeah.
Because the Swedish people come to Norway and take their good jobs and stuff. So the same racism you hear in the States harshly against Mexican people is how you hear Norwegian people talk about Swedish people.
Yeah, all the Scandinavian people will have some kind of other prejudice or stereotype against the other Scandinavian countries and their population. That's just how it is. That's kind of how it goes. But I also kind of look at it like cousins. That's what I've been described.
They're all related.
They're all related.
I mean, all humans are related. We just, some people
hide
were
it more
distant from the sun's rays.
Right. Yeah.
But
not the Nordics.
Did you ever hear my joke about it? That
what is it?
So I was blown away to find out that people in Norway are prejudiced against Swedish people.
Yeah.
And because they say, Swedish people come there, take their good jobs, but it's deeper than that. Because IKEA comes from Sweden, and a lot of the item names in IKEA are actually place names in Norway. And Norwegian people are pissed off about it, man.
I bet.
I met a woman from Wooden Salad Bowl. She was so angry. I met another man from Rubber Toothbrush Holder.
Yeah.
And but someone in Norway told me that, like, I stretched it to make it funny, but a lot of little place names in Norway, they've taken the names to name these goofy little items. Oh, geez.
Yeah, I have a joke kind of like that with my mom's name. Her name's Freydis, and I'm like, you're not sure if my mom's a person or a footstool or whatever, that kind of a deal.
It does sound like an item in IKEA.
Right, exactly. And so, and people like to just shit on Scandinavia. It's like easy to make fun of Nobody's going to get
big
mad.
In Norway too is it's not Taco Tuesday. I think it's Taco Monday or Taco Friday.
Oh, I believe it.
In Norway, everyone eats tacos on Taco Friday, Taco Tuesday, whatever it is. And it's like a big Norwegian thing. But it's not like our tacos. Like they put everything on it. Like it could be like cucumber and mayonnaise tacos.
And you're like you guys are missing the story a little bit.
You need to let a few Mexican people over to show you the deliciousness of tacos.
Well, I found a lot of parallels between Norway and South Korea. because they're both pretty cordoned off from the rest of the world, right? You
Very
look at them on a
proud,
map.
yeah.
They're very proud. They're very monocultural, right? Like you see when it's Taco Friday for 20 people, it's Taco Friday for the country. Same thing happens in Korea. And so there was a lot of like similarities in that regard that I've seen in both countries. And I really appreciate this idea of working together, having a common, group mindset in some ways, because we don't have that in the States as much. It's all just individual. We're here doing our own thing.
Well, what are some of the best things about the time you spent in Korea that have influenced who you are? Like, what are...
It was such a wonderful time for community building in my life. It was so gorgeous to be able to be in this place where everybody came together from similar backgrounds, but it was different enough that it never felt stale. Like everybody is a traveler and college educated, at least the international folks that I met there. And so this idea of like working together to build a comedy scene was awesome. And that really influenced a big part of it, at least my pre-pandemic life. I just haven't done as much of that stuff post-pandemic. I think it just changed me and changed my priorities a little bit. But I loved the communal aspect of life in Korea. And I loved being a good host. That was really important to me. Is like, as a show producer in Korea, when you came over, when Kanane came over, when Glenn Wool came over, it's like we were not only show producers, but we were tour guides. We were helping you order. We were getting people around. And so like this idea of, I think my service mindset just really worked well in that capacity, because it was so cool to be able to show people around. And like,
I liked it because like I got to know more about Korean culture going over there to do your shows than I did the first time I went when I was like 20 and didn't know anything.
For sure. Because we were all living in Korea for years at that time, and so we knew a lot about Korea. We knew how to get around. Korea is so fun to visit, and it's
Do you remember that you guys did this pop-up show on a subway?
I was telling someone about that last night.
That was incredible. And that video is somewhere where, and it was so ballsy. And because there's such a conservative society in Korea.
Yeah, I remember
it's not
that.
like, people, it's not like New York where it's common to have a singer or a hip-hop guy or whatever pop onto a subway car and start entertaining people out of nowhere.
And so,
and it was like ballsy. You just like did a little pop-up stand-up show.
Yeah, Tom Rhodes, laugh track.
I did it. On one of the car journeys.
We were around Itaewon.
Yeah, that was awesome.
It was so cool.
And I only told like 4 or 5 jokes, but I did stand-up comedy on a moving subway car in Seoul, Korea.
Exactly. And that's the kind of stuff that was so cool to be able to do with people and have those experiences. I feel incredibly lucky, incredibly fortunate, incredibly like just so blessed to be able to have done that stuff with people like you in early parts of my comedy career, because we were taking risks already. That was part of moving abroad. You're taking risks from day one, from moment one. Someone asked me like, what is the main thing you learned by living in Korea the other day? And I was like, you learn how to be stupid. You learn how to be kind of an idiot when you move to another country. You are illiterate when you go to a new place. You have to depend on the kindness of other people. You have to take the leap. You have to trust that you're not going to get your hand chopped off if you walk down that alley. And usually it works. And so it's nice to be able to like ferry people around. It was so cool. And so same thing in Eugene, but it's not the same. Comedians come here for 1 or 2 days and they get out and they do their thing. That's one of the reasons I want to really encourage folks to consider what Oregon Country Fair might be, even though it's harder to become a part of, because they want to maintain the integrity of it. They want people to be a part of it who are going to be respectful and kind and spread love and be a part of all that hippie stuff that people might poo-poo at.
Okay, well, let's come back to Oregon in a minute. And that Oregon Country Fair, everyone listening to this, let's all plan on July 2025 to meet there. I'll plan on doing the festival then.
I love it.
Because this July I'm going to be in New York City doing sets. and let's all, get deep into that Oregon hippie vibe.
Heck yeah. Come join the fun. Like, have a good time.
But as far as Korea goes,
Yeah.
like, I think Korean food is the most underrated cuisine on the planet. And for me, it's the best thing about Los Angeles is Korean food, Mexican food, Thai food.
Yeah.
It's just in so much abundance there.
You-
But what about, what are some interesting knowledge nuggets or mind-blowing things about Korea did you learn and that you can blow people's minds with?
When you mention the food in Korea, I love the food as well. It's huge. And I think the reason it's underrated is because there's so much work involved. There's bones in the meat. You got to cook the meat. You got to put the stuff together. There's 40 different side dishes. You're using chopsticks.
I love that there's so many little side dishes.
I love them.
I love kimchi. I like all the
weird pickled
the little
stuff.
tadpole-looking sprouts.
There's sprouts. There's little fish on there. There's so many weird things that they just put in front of you when you eat in Korea. And people are like, I don't know what to do with this. And it's very fishy. And a lot of it is fairly earthen as well. And so I think that that's part of it. I loved Korea for what did I learn? What is my Korean like top of the thing? I loved seeing a country of people like work together. That's what it feels like a lot of the time, is that the group mindset there leads to a lot of people being able to do a lot of things together very well. That is awesome and wonderful and beautiful. And sometimes when there is a lack of clarity, that makes it very challenging for a lot of folks. And so I just try to keep that in my mind. It's like, okay, well, I know it's not always going to be super clear, and I want to be able to go with the flow as best as possible. And living abroad, you have to be able to do that. You have to be able to take the punches. You have to be able to adjust on the fly. And coming back, I'm not sure if I've maintained those skills to the level that I'd want to. It's hard. The pandemic was hard. It's like, I loved not having to go out for a year and a half. Like taking all that.
Yeah, I didn't realize how much I enjoyed sleeping in my own bed.
It's awesome.
Because I've never stayed home for that long and went that long without doing comedy. I felt like I'd lost my identity.
So were you kind of swirling around, or did you enjoy it?
2020 was the best year of my life.
Love it.
And I spent the first 4 months of the pandemic with my mom in Los Angeles. We only walked around the neighborhood. I never left this 1 mile from my apartment for the first 4 months.
Yeah.
And then the woman that I was dating in Portland, I spent 5 months with her. To avoid all other human beings except for the person you love.
Yeah.
And I bought a car specifically so I could drive to Portland and get around.
Yeah.
Because I was just taking Lyfts and Uber everywhere before the pandemic hit. And all this time was spent in Oregon and all these, up and down the coast, back and forth, just enjoying all this nature between Portland and Los Angeles.
Yeah. It's gorgeous.
Until I witnessed a suicide on November 19th, 2020.
Oh.
And then my brain was fucked for 4 months, 5 months.
Yeah, totally.
So, but up until that point, 2020 was probably one of the best years of my life.
Yeah. Dude, that's brutal. It's insane that stuff happens to people.
And I get pissed when I think about that pandemic now because, it wasn't the plague.
No.
We didn't need to isolate that hard.
No.
You remember Texas and Florida and all these other places that weren't really going with the complete lockdown, and
right.
And people on the West Coast go, oh, look at those morons. Well, life didn't need to completely shut down. It wasn't the plague. I didn't need to go a year and 3 months without doing stand-up.
Right.
Maybe that woman wouldn't have committed suicide.
Yeah.
If the pandemic had not happened.
Right.
And I got vaccinated and a booster, and I still caught it fucking 3 times.
Yeah, exactly. I've had it twice. It is just another thing that I think we've been watching so many apocalypse shows for so long that we were ready to try to have our own.
Yeah.
We wanted to see what would happen when we put everything on lockdown. I don't know. That's just me bullshitting, but it's...
No, and I know. And then had I not had my vaccination, I think the first time I had COVID, it probably would have killed me. Because I had the Delta variant, and I've never been so sick in my life.
Oh, man.
My body aches, headaches, coughing, sneezing. And at one point, I think I had about 30% lung capacity. Dude. And I remember thinking to myself, if I feel like my breathing capacity goes down a little bit, I need to get to an emergency room. Right. So like, had I not been vaccinated, it could have been a different taken me out. Could have been a different story for sure. So yeah. So I don't fully mean that, but I really wish I had not witnessed that suicide. Yeah. It fucked with a lot of people in a lot of ways. And also I was thankful for it. I did a lot, I paid off my debt. I wrote a TV show. I started a cat family, I did a lot of stuff in the pandemic. I got in good shape, I had an outdoor gym in the backyard with the cats and the neighbors and the birds and all that. And it's like, I didn't suffer that much in a lot of ways. I was able to have a full-time job so much more readily from home during the pandemic than going to a brick and mortar. Because I didn't have to travel. I could have my food ready. What a great place to live during the pandemic. Yeah, it was gorgeous. It was ideal. I talked with my friends all the time. We did Friday comedian hangout chats, online and stuff like that. So there was so much that I ended up being thankful for, by it, from it. And now I'm just trying to kind of, share that a little bit more. I don't know. It's just kind of fun. That's good. Well, and let me say this about that. I'm glad you say that, because the further extension of that thought, as horrendous as witnessing that suicide was, it led to me buying roller skates. There you go. Which, skating around my neighborhood, I saw this hot yoga place. Yeah. On Wilshire Boulevard. And I thought, oh my God, 20 years ago, some comedian friends of mine were into hot yoga, and I tried it then. Yeah. And even though I was drinking and eating whatever the fuck I wanted, I still lost like 10 pounds 20 years ago. And I thought, oh my God, I loved the hot yoga. So because of that horrendous thing I witnessed, that led to me getting roller skates, me getting into hot yoga. All of these great things happened from, the silver lining in the dark cloud. A lot of great things happened in response to. I think it made me grow up in a lot of ways. Totally. I mean, not similar. I got let go from my day job a year and a half ago. And from that, a friend, I've always been in good shape. I've always been working out. I've always been into that. That's been a big part of my life. And a friend asked me to be his trainer. And from that, I got just on my horse, and I'm like, ooh, I want to get certified as a personal trainer. I want to train comedians. I want to do this. And I made 50 workout videos. I've done so much stuff. I work at the Y now, and I want to turn comedy and health into this thing together. At one point every day, do they play Village People YMCA? They don't, and I keep putting it in the comment cards, but nobody has responded yet. 5 p.m. every day. Yeah. When everybody's coming in from work, we play the song, everyone wears their hats, we do the thing. Someone else is pushing the Macarena. Yeah. It's like, no, somebody's doing Mambo number 5 in the corner. I'm like, you guys, this is not it. Gangnam Style. Yeah. Rudy, you're one of my favorite people on the planet. I'm grateful for the Korea experience that you gave me twice. I love it. And it's so great to see you again, man. And you are a true Oregonian. And I'm really happy to sit here and tell you how deeply I've fallen in love with Oregon and how it's become part of my identity with the way I dress. And so cool. In closing, because I have a show coming up and I need to get something to eat, and I want to see that used bookstore. What's it called? Smith Family Bookstore. Let's run over there. Yeah. But in closing, what are some of the best things about Eugene, Oregon that you can delight us with before we say goodbye?
Eugene is such a wonderful little hippie hamlet. Like, it just has this nice sense to it of friendly people that you can talk with strangers. You can say hi to people at the grocery store. You can get great vegan food anywhere, plant-based food, whatever. There's also a ton of great meat options if you're a meat eater and stuff like that. It's a wonderful little place to come if you want to like get away from a giant city and be around some moss. Get a little dewy. Smell somebody's armpits.
Dewy.
You know, that's Eugene sometimes. And also be ready to check out, get splashed by a four-wheeler and people with their mud flaps and balls on the back of their truck. Like, that's Eugene too. I live in the middle of that. So if you come to Eugene expecting only one thing, I don't think you're going to find only one thing unless you just put the blinders on. I think Eugene is a wonderful place to stop by, and I think I'm fortunate to be from here. There's a lot worse places that after living overseas for many years, I could have ended up than my hometown of Eugene, Oregon. I'm super thankful for it. And I'm super stoked that there's a comedy club, reasons why people like you come in on a much more regular basis. And I'm just so thankful for that, to be able to still do comedy and have fun with a bunch of smelly weirdos. Smelly, hairy, damp weirdos.
I like that. And in a broader sense, philosophically, is there any words of wisdom or advice you'd like to give to the people of the earth?
Move your hips, shoulders, and spine every day. That's it. That's my thing. Hips, shoulders, and spine.
You got to keep the elasticity on your spine.
You got to move it. You got to twist. You got to wiggle. You got to shake it around. You got to jump up and down a little bit here and there. And just work to be strong, flexible, and balanced. That's what I'm going for. That's what success is for me. It's not $1 million. That'd be nice. But it's not any specific thing. It's work to enjoy the process. That's what I want to do in my life. And that's what I hope other people do.
Yeah. Marcus Aurelius said to forget everyone's opinion about anything because it's all meaningless, and to just focus on what you're doing and try to be the best at it. And then I had this yoga instructor who moved away, but she used to always say, you should every day look in the mirror and say, I love you, Rudy. I love you, Tom. Say your own name and say, I love you, Tom. Because your whole life you say, I love my mom, I love pizza, I love books, I love movies. But you never say, I love you, say your own name. And your body knows its own name. And that the most important thing you can do for the world is to love yourself. Because all bad things and whatever comes from people not loving themselves.
I believe it. I buy that.
So love yourself and meet us at the Oregon Country Fair in July 2025.
Heck yeah, baby. You'll see us in the mud pits just sloshing around. It's going to be...
Oh, and did the one guy you trained really gain weight?
Yeah,
That's awesome.
And but we're working on it. We're working on it. He still talks with me. I think people want to work out, but they don't want to need to work out.
Okay. All right, Rudy. I love you very much, brother.
Love you too, Tom. It's
Long
a pleasure.
May you run, brother.
Long may you run, Tom.
Long may you run. Hooray for humanity.